where my heart lies is in how I can touch someone else to hopefully make their journey a little bit better. To raise money and awareness for the foundation, the HBCU kids, the kids who didn't choose college, the ones who maybe like myself knew that they had a passion and they just needed somebody to spark it. And it's just so interesting to see just everybody. We touch you and then you go out there and you touch other people. So it's just beautiful just watching it grow, because that's what's going to keep music alive. But the foundation will be until the day I die.
Hello, everybody. This is the REBIRTH podcast with UraelB, where I sit down with wonderful people, talk about their journey, their lives, and their transformations and what they've done. And right now, I'm sitting down with a very, very powerful woman who not only has given me plenty of opportunities, but has extended grace and leverage and love to a lot of people she's touched professionally and personally. So without further ado, I want to introduce Vivian Scott Chew.
Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, what an honor. You and I met each other in the middle of a pandemic, in the middle of the murder of George Floyd, when none of us really knew what kind of world was going to be happening once we got through all of those challenges. And then here we are. And, before I say who I am, I just want you to know that I see who you are. And I am so very, very proud of the young man that you are and that you will continue to be, and that our paths crossed. And our paths crossed during the Power to Inspire Foundation Summer Program of 2020. You were in our inaugural class. And Power to Inspire is probably, if I had to be honest, the most important thing, other than being a wife and a mother and a grandmother, is the mentorship that I do for young people like yourself. But my journey's been a long one. My journey's been a very blessed one. And I don't even know how to describe what I do. It's funny, people ask me, what is it that you do? And my response is usually, I get up every morning being blessed to do whatever it is that I want to do. And if we're talking about what I do in order to get, a check, I am an event producer. My husband, Ray Chew, who is music director currently for Dancing with the Stars and many other great things that he does. We are co-founders of Chew Entertainment, and we design unique musical experiences around the world. That's my day-to-day. But where my heart lies is in how I can touch someone else to hopefully make their journey a little bit better. That's where my heart is. As I've gotten older, I realize that I have to really use my heart more than my brain, because my brain sometimes misleads me, and I'm a very excitable person. So I was like, I had this idea, like, let's go, dig a hole and build a train tomorrow, and we're going to get to the other side. And that's just not how it is. But now that I have had a little bit more time on this earth and really see how God wants me to move, and for me to still myself to do that, that's probably the most challenging thing for me. That's not how I'm wired. I'm total type A. Let's go. Let's get it done. But, I've had some amazing steps along the way and amazing shoulders that I stood on to make sure that I could do my journey the way that I should be doing it. So, yeah.
That's good. With your heart in as strong of a place as it has been, and with the shoulders you've climbed and the people who've helped you along the way, who can you think of in your past from the early days of Vivian and growing up that really helped segue you into the right direction?
Professionally?
Both professionally and personally.
Okay. Personally, I was raised by the trio: my mother, my grandmother, and my godmother. Those three women, and they were very uniquely different. My mother was a very quiet force. She instilled in me, if you don't stand up for something, you'll fall for anything, in a very quiet way. She led the Democratic Party in our little town. I grew up in a town called Far Rockaway in Queens. And in me watching who she was and her commitment to make sure that Black people were registered voters, many of whom didn't even know how to write their signatures. And they would put an X, and she would have to put her signature next to that. But I was the little kid that went door to door with her, and the elections were the days she ran the polls. I mean, she really instilled in me the sense of community and the sense of how we have to be responsible for our community. My godmother was just the most colorful person I ever met. And she's the one that instilled in me, baby, just be you. It's okay. And if that person don't like you, they don't even deserve to be in your presence as long as you're doing the right thing. She was an amazing woman. And my grandmother taught me how to be a mom. I watched how my grandmothered all of her grandchildren and just the very simple, just the looks that she would give us, let us know how loved we were. So that's personally. Professionally, it's another woman by the name of Louise West. And you met Louise West when we honored her. And thank you so much for being there with us. But Louise was my first boss. I was her assistant. Louise was the first Black female entertainment attorney I had ever met. And to this day, she's the person that I go to. Weezy, what do you think? And she's just as there for me today as she was many, many years ago when I first came to work.
Speaking of first, you gave me my first job and internship within the music industry too. So I love that that was paid forward and it was
Yeah.
brought together by me being able to be graced by her presence. She is a lovely
Um,
woman. I understand
mhm.
how she affected your life, and I only spent a few hours with her. So that's great to know.
Yeah.
When it comes to that first initial step professionally in the industry, was your family behind this? Was this something they supported? Did Luis have to groom you in a way to be prepared to go into the music industry? What was that transition from young adulthood
Mm,
into the industry like?
right. Well, there was a gap between me saying I want to be in the music industry and me actually being in the music industry.
Mm.
So when I did announce to my family, they were like, hey, you're crazy. I did not finish college. I started at Georgetown, which, by the way, I have re-enrolled. So I will be getting my diploma. If I have to do it one course at a time, it's getting done.
That's
So
all you
I'm
need.
excited about that. I'm really excited about that. But so they thought me leaving Georgetown was going to be the end of my life professionally. And I told them college just wasn't for me. I wanted to work. I got the opportunity to work with Louise, and Louise definitely was my groomer, but on so many different levels. She kept saying, I'm telling you, I know you want to be at a record company because everybody wants to be at a record company. Focus on publishing. And that's how I went from her to going over to ASCAP, the American Society of Composers, Authors, and Publishers. And
Hmm.
I had referred about 3 or 4 other people for that job because I had a friend that worked there. I didn't think I was qualified. Well, apparently somebody else did. Thank God. And that's how I became the first African American female membership rep at ASCAP. And that was because of Louise saying, I know your mind is saying this, but I'm telling you. Because publishing was like, it wasn't exciting. It was like, songs and paper. It wasn't, bands and records. And that's really what I
Hmm.
wanted to do. But I took that step, and that prepared me to go into the record industry.
What's up? It's UraelB, and I want to say thank you for listening to this conversation. If you're enjoying it, please consider purchasing my album that inspired it all, Respect the Real, Volume 2. The full album is available in the link in the description, and there's also a link to stream all the singles. Whichever way you support, I thank you for it. Well, I'm going to get out the way. Back to the conversation. It's so fascinating to find out that it wasn't an initial goal of yours. This wasn't something you started off
Mm.
doing. And I know a lot of people have that journey into the music industry where it wasn't their first passion, whether they wanted to be a music artist first and went behind the scenes, or they wanted to do something else and then found a calling in music. So why do you think music itself, or being in the industry of entertainment, was something that, regardless of school and what education you got, you knew you wanted to do?
Mhm. It started in the church. It started in the church. I was a church girl, Baptist church 8 days a week. Mama,
Hmm.
secretary of the church, father, head of the trustee board, church, church, church. It was actually the music of the church, the music of the church, the music of the church that drew me in. And it's interesting, my husband drew a parallel not too long ago that I would have only a musician would. He knows that my most favorite types of music are gospel funk, and soulful house. And one day I was listening to something, he goes, I get the connection. All three of those music genres have a lot of music that focuses on minor, ninth, and 11th chords. Those sounds resonate with you. I see you do the same movements, whether you're listening to any three of them. So, in the words of George Clinton, it's something about the music. And so I always knew, but I can't sing, I can't play, I couldn't do any of those things. But I became the manager of our choir because it was, I'm going to get in here, I'm going to get in where I fit in somewhere. And my choir at that time was a very well-known choir, and they used to go out and do worship services. So I was the person behind that made sure that all the administrative stuff got done. So I knew that my gift was to be the person behind the creative. And that's where I've spent my entire career, is in doing that.
What does it take to know that? Because I'm
Mm,
doing both, and the idea that I couldn't possibly not be front facing if I tried is hard for me. Like, I know I want to help other people and artists and producers and writers with their publishing and administration, but for some reason I'm always called to the stage. I'm always called to perform.
mm.
What is it like that on the other end, knowing that you're not going to be in the front, but you're very important and you need to be as good as the people in front when you're behind the scenes?
Oh, it's where I live. It's what excites me. You know, when we're putting together shows that we're about to do, I just thrilled by the process. And then when the show happens, it's just the biggest, and I know how important I am in that equation. And it's my gift. I have the gift of administration, the gift of execution, but I use both sides of my brain. So I also do have a creative gift that I use, being the person behind all of it, and coming up with ideas. I come up with crazy ideas that a lot of people look at me and go, where'd that come from? And some of, I'll say if I come up with 10, I'm going to do at least five and do it well. I did have a job in between working for Louise and for ASCAP, and it was with an amazing producer. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us, by the name of Kashif. And Kashif produced Evelyn Champagne King's big hits, and Melissa Morgan, and, really, really big in the mid 80s going into the 90s. But what the gift that he gave me was that he bought the Jackie Robinson estate in Stamford, Connecticut, tore down the guest house, and made a studio. So during the time that we were working together, I got to do three things. I got to work with him on his publishing companies. I got to travel with him on the road. That gave me that bug. And I also got to just sit and hear how creative of a person he was in the studio. So I got a little bits of all, and it was the studio thing that really stood out. Now, mind you, I'm the girl that hates to be in the studio. Like, and that was during a time when it was reel to reel tape. So that that sound was like, oh, it's time to go. So as an A&R person, I was always known to be the person that would have the car waiting outside, come in, give me the rough mix. I'll let you know what I think. I'm out. Not the girl that was going to sit on the couch in the back for hours while you keep doing the same vocal over and over again, and it sounds exactly the same to me. So yeah, that wasn't my gift. But
That's hilarious.
and I also, I mean, to be fully honest, I don't really think I was a great A&R person. I think that I was very blessed and very lucky to have discovered some of the artists that I did. What I am is I'm a really good marketing person. So I knew how to, particularly in introducing a new genre that had never been introduced fully in the US before, and that's dance hall. It was the selling of that I was really, 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 really good at. And, had a little bit of ear, but I would say I had a lot of people around me that had better ears.
It takes a deep self-knowing to not only know that, but to admit it and say, I
Yeah.
wasn't the best. And there's
Mhm.
two questions I have with that. Being that this was something you knew you were thrown into or you were doing at the time, why did you feel you were successful with breaking people like Shaba Ranks? What helped you actually do that job successfully, even though you think you weren't good at it?
Um, the team that was put together, the machine that I was allowed to put together is why we were successful in breaking artists like Shaba. I had a boss named Hank Caldwell. who, when I came to him with a cassette of Shaba, and he listened to it in his office and he said, baby, I have no idea what he's saying, but if you believe in it, I believe in you. Go. Shaba had a manager, two managers actually, who had I not had them right by my side as a woman, as a non-Jamaican woman, going to an island, the respect that I got and the reverence that I got was because of the path that they paved for me, that Miss Scott's coming. This is how we got to roll. Shaba was the most respectful and understanding of what he didn't know. And he was a great student in sitting in front of me and learning, okay, you've been doing this for years. You're an international superstar on your own, but you didn't really break in America. And we do things a little differently here. So as I was teaching him that, they were teaching me how they do things differently in Jamaica. And it's a whole different culture, particularly as a woman. So it was a learning curve for both of us. But had I not had the support of my boss, had I not had the camaraderie with Shaba's managers, Specialist Dylan and the Honorable Babsy Grange, who is one of the ministers on the island, I don't think we would have had the success that we had. And the success that we had opened up the doors. Every major label started signing artists from Jamaica. Publishing companies started giving deals. When I went back to Jamaica and started seeing studios reopen and people were driving Benzes and Mercedes, that made me happy because it meant that I drove economy into that island. That was a good thing.
This podcast and audio series was brought to you by Respect the Real, a network where creativity is anchored by authenticity, passion, and pure intentions. If you're enjoying this, please follow UraelB on social media, follow our guests on social media, and drop a comment on this video so we know how much value we're bringing you. Yeah, that's not something a lot of people can say. And to watch it firsthand, like you were with the artist in their homeland and actually helping them develop that and to see it come to fruition. That sounds beautiful. The other question I have as a follow-up to that was, you talked about your influences and then being directly mainly female, but I know in research you've also had a lot of male shoulders that you've climbed and helped lift you up. Could you speak on some of those as well, and just speak on the difference between having both? A lot of people have a one-sided, influence. So how was it to have both men and women championing you and helping you get where you were going?
Well, the whole world is about a male energy and a feminine energy coming together. And my brothers were the ones that would go in the studio for me. They would take, I went in, they taught me certain things, and I went, yeah, this is good. Can you just let me know when I can hear when it's finished? And they're like, we got you. And they would be there, not asking for any credit, not asking for any money, but just we were, brothers and sisters. And I would say probably the most important person in that equation is a man named Timmy Regisford. And Timmy Regisford is a very, very well-known DJ. He's been around for a while. He travels the world. He has an incredible ear. He went and did A&R over, it was called MCA Records at the time. It's now Universal. And he's Caribbean. So he also understood, what I was going to be up against, particularly in breaking this genre. But Timmy was amazing. I had amazing attorneys and business managers. They're the ones who said, you're not going to have this job for the rest of your life. It is going to storm. We're going to make sure that you have a raincoat. And they did. So that when the storm came, I could pull back and go, wow, I really do have some money and I'm okay. And I ain't got to stress about this. And I can take time to figure out what my next step is going to be. It was those brothers. They were also the ones that said, you need to buy a house. You need to buy something because you're in a tax bracket right now. You need the write-off and you need the security. And literally went from found what I wanted to showed up on closing day. It was nothing else I had to do. Those men supported me. The women in the industry, in addition to Louise West, there were two women. Rochelle Fields, who was head of the West Coast office for Warner Chappell Publishing, and Brenda Andrews, who was the head of Almo Irving Publishing, which is, I don't know what Almo Irving is, who bought them, but it started by Herb Alpert, A&M Records, It was their publishing company. And simple things. They were LA girls. I was a very New York girl. Simple things like, girl, you cannot wear black every day in this town. Okay, it's an insult. Two, and that little plastic Swatch watch you have on, people notice a couple of things in this town. They look at the watch that you have, they look at the car that you drive, and they look at the hotel that you stay in, because there were no cell phones. So when you had to meet with someone or have a conversation, you had to tell them, I'm at the blah, blah, blah hotel room, blah, blah, call me. It wasn't about the Holiday Inn or the Ramada Inn. You had to stay at a hotel where they went, oh, okay. So they taught me how to posture. And, at that time, a lot of the music industry was based on the West Coast. And the pendulum switched and it came back to the East Coast. Now it's back to being on the West Coast. So it was just, when you walking in someone's hut, stand back, observe, see what everybody's doing, and then walk in right and walk in out of respect. But seemingly me wearing black, and of course, look, I've got on black. Me wearing black every day, or every time I was like I'm a New Yorker, how we roll. And so it was interesting. And now I'm like a half LA girl. I'll take half.
Yeah, no, I would definitely consider you have, especially for your love of West Coast music. You've told me before.
Oh,
you just you fell in love with that.
It's California love, for real.
Hey, it's UraelB, and I want to say thank you again for tuning in to this conversation. Your attention is extremely valuable. So if you took any value from this video, please consider liking, sharing this with someone, and subscribing to this channel. It goes a long way. And stay tuned for more. Check out one of these videos right here.